Hello and welcome to our LinkedIn Live session this afternoon, brought to you by the Association for Coaching. I'm Rob Lawrence, a coach and your host for our LinkedIn Live session today. And today we're going to learn about an up-and-coming webinar series called Working with the Body in Executive Coaching, which is an up-and-coming Association for Coaching webinar series running in February 2023. So today I'm joined by Clare, Dale and Kevin Chapman, directors of the Physical Intelligence Institute. And in this LinkedIn Live session, we're going to explore briefly how and when you can use physical intelligence in your executive coaching to support your clients towards developing greater strength, flexibility, resilience, and endurance. So, as I understand, coaches today are becoming increasingly aware that embodiment practice is no longer a nice to have, but is a vital element of a coach's toolkit. Despite this, many struggle to find accessible, credible, scientifically based, clearly defined tools that coaches can easily integrate into their practice. Now, I know Clare and Kevin have something to share with you today called the Physical Intelligence Toolkit. So we're going to prise open the lid and learn a little bit more about that and what to expect in the up and coming webinar series. We're also going to find out whether this webinar series is for you and what it has to offer. So if you're a coach that works with leaders, I'm hoping you're going to learn something from our live chat today. And with no further ado, I'll begin by introducing you to Kevin and Clare. Hello. And maybe Clare, if I could begin with you, just to learn a little bit more about who you are and your background and your involvement in the Physical Intelligence Institute.
Yes, thank you, Rob. Well, hello to everybody. I started my career really in a very different field from coaching, consultancy and corporations, which was in the world of contemporary dance. So for 15 years, I was involved in the arts and in the world of movement, creating pieces of dance and touring them internationally. We were very successful. It's a very competitive area. Arts Council funding is very hard to come by, but we succeeded in that very difficult area. And as I went through that 15-year process, I realized that the things that I was applying to myself as a dancer and choreographer in order to get us on stage, being able to perform at our best, working with our nervous system, working with our nerves, working with confidence and risk tolerance, quite athletic in the movements that we were doing, quite risky. I realized that those things applied directly to how I was leading the company and how I was working with them and developing them as people. So I thought, right, there's something here, this world of movement, breath, posture, how you work with ideas, beliefs, all those kind of things that are important in coaching. There's a great relevance to people who work with other people in working with the body. And that's because all change really happens in the body. Everything that we think and feel has a physiology and it's happening in the body. And as many of us in the coaching field are beginning to really understand, is that the body stores up knowledge, it stores up experience. And unless we process with the body, as well as cognitively and emotionally, then change will happen highly probably more slowly. And also the depth that you can go to create the change in the person will be less profound. So that's in a nutshell where I came from and how it relates to the coaching world. Broad sweeps for the answer to the opening question.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Clare. Well, we'll explore a little bit more about that today, but obviously there will be a lot more of this in the webinar series. How about you, Kevin? What's your background?
Mine was very different. I didn't dance my way into this field. Actually, I did my degree in statistics. I was very interested in randomness, and then I ended up spending my life working with people who, on the face of it, look quite random in how they behave. But of course, a bit like statistics, we all have patterns. trained as Claire did in coaching. In fact, I've trained 3 times as a coach, worked in consulting. And my journey really in meeting Claire was, I had the privilege of working with a lot of artists in my life, magicians, chefs, singers, dancers, actors, directors, writers, comedians. And I was fascinated about how much the world of arts knew about human performance that wasn't being brought into the corporate world. So started that bringing that in. And when I met Claire, I was running the commercial business of a world-renowned drama school, where we were using embodied work to really help people with issues like presentation skills, performance anxiety, and confidence. It was the first time as a coach that really embodiment had, firmly smacked me on the face, because all of that work is embodied. The pedagogy of that work is over 100 years old. It predates coaching by 7 decades. So, to work with things like confidence, we are working with posture, with breath, with our voice, with narrative. Those are the things that have been demonstrated to make the difference. When Claire and I met, my first coach, Dr. Terry Morgan, told me that to be a great coach, you needed to really have a good theory of how a human being worked. And I felt, having trained many times and have met hundreds, maybe thousands of coaches, that embodiment really is the missing piece for us at the moment. But as we met in the lockdown, I said to Claire that if we could put this work together and serve it up in a way that coaches could use for themselves and in their practice, it would also help serve the fact that we're working with issues like resilience, isolation. We're all feeling sort of threatened and stressed through times of COVID and war and inflation. So what coaches are realizing is we need to be much more expert in how the whole human being works. And just working with the head, working with questions, with thoughts and psychology is not only not enough, but also our clients are wanting us to have a much more holistic understanding of how we work. They want to understand how energy works. They ask us about sleep, about what we should eat, about when we should exercise, whether we should go on keto diets. So suddenly we have to be much more expert in understanding this very complicated human system. So we brought this work together under the label of physical intelligence to offer that up as a gift to anyone working in coaching or working in the area of people and performance.
Sounds like a really exciting emerging area in coaching. And to your point there, Kevin, coaching is still relatively young, and new knowledge and experiences coming into coaching every day. So this is really exciting to hear. I guess without this sounding hopefully too much like an obvious question, why is this particular topic, do you believe, important right now?
So I guess that question comes to me, and I think it's important right now because, as Kevin says, going through lockdowns and war and the sort of current world that we're living in with exponential change as a part of our daily conversation as we coach people, especially executive coaching. Every organization is going through change, and it's endless. So the exponential nature of that means that our bodies and our nervous systems are playing catch up with our environment, and in fact, our nervous systems and the neurophysiology that drives us, the neuropeptides and hormones that race through our bodies and brains, they need to be able to be more, we need to be more flexible and get more agency in how we create the various chemical cocktails that will work for this day and age. But our bodies are living in the past. We haven't got the right patterning for today's fast-paced technological world. So we're kind of, what we're offering really, and we're offering coaches who come to work with us, who then will work with their executives and their people, their clients, is an upgrade. It's really a refresh of all that software that exists in the hardware of the technology of our body, that says, actually, we can be more flexible with this rate of change if we learn how to optimize our cortisol levels and raise our serotonin levels, our feelings of being okay, of being well, of being of having enough status in the world. Because one of the things that happens when change happens really fast is that human beings' status lowers because they feel less important than the organizational change. So that's just one tiny example of a theme that emerges as we all change. So that's it, really. We need an upgrade. We need to learn how to be confident when things are working fast and there's less certainty. And confidence is a physiological state. Confidence is felt first and foremost in the body. We know when we're lacking confidence, when we're doubting ourselves, because the feeling is in the gut or in the chest area, or we feel a change in skin temperature, or so many different physiological signs that our inner state has changed. Likewise, motivation. So if confidence is a physical state, it's about testosterone. Women and men need that for risk tolerance and confidence. And it's also about optimizing cortisol levels, the stress chemical. But then when you come to motivation, belief in the future, I've been coaching on that just this morning, and we're really talking about how we can understand and have agency over the different aspects of the dopamine system. And it's complex, but if you know 2 or 3 things about the dopamine system, you can coach from that and coach better with motivation and beliefs. So you can see where this is going. And in the webinar series, we'll start with that basic neurochemistry about how a human being works. And then in the next session, we'll build the chemistry around the 4 elements of physical intelligence, which we'll come back to, I'm sure: strength, flexibility, resilience, and endurance. Then we're going to look at powerful techniques to work with the chemistry of flow. It's quite a common word. Coaches know about flow. We know about flow. Creativity, human connection, and trust. So what are those elements? What's the chemistry of that? And how to work in the next session will be the next part will be how to work in a variety of ways with posture and breath and movement and presence. We'll be practicing the tools, the PI tools, with each other all along the way in the webinars. And this is really we're looking at how to create greater behavioral flexibility, leadership flexibility, and for yourselves as coaches, how to create more flexibility. That's probably enough for now. You might want to delve into the 4 elements. I don't know where you want to go next, Rob, or if Kevin wants to add to that.
Just going to add a piece around really the commercialism in coaching. Why now? Because there are a lot of coaches. And what we hear from coaches is people who are new into coaching are asking, how can I differentiate myself? People who are currently in coaching are wanting more depth of language and explanation to explain to clients what they're doing, why they're doing it. How do I demonstrate I know what I'm doing? And all coaches are much more acutely aware of their bodies. We've all lived with our bodies all of our lives, but over the last 2 years, more and more of us have been adopting new practices, particularly when we were in isolation. So exercise, yoga, diets, all sorts of meditation, all sorts of practices that are freely available on the web. If you Google them, we've been applying them to our own lives, trying to cut through the myriad of science, which is often conflicting, around things like sleep and nutrition, to try and understand, how do I build this into my work when I'm helping somebody else to be a high-performing human being? And our industry is being digitized, so we are working more remotely. In some ways, it's being more commoditized, so there's pressures on the amount we can charge. And the invention of AI will soon be, I think, in competition with computers who can build the same sort of levels of rapport that we can online and ask equally useful questions and predictive questions. So working with the full technology of the body is going to be a huge differentiator and help for coaches who want to do their best work, stay ahead of the game, justify their fees, And of course, coaches are constantly curious, so we have a lifelong ambition to really learn and understand the body, because we want to see change in other people. That's what really drives us. So that's what we're hearing from people that we're working with. The other side to that is people applying these things in their own life. So when we are coaches, we are trained to be in a coach state, to be centered and open and aware. So how do you actually do that? How do you have 6, 7, 8 coaching calls a day and maintain at your best, maintain your energy levels, your attention levels, flex your style to all sorts of people that you may or may not originally have been attracted to work with? So those are the reasons people are coming to us. And this whole field, there's continual research coming out every day, every week. So we're all passionate learners as well. So we're on a journey to really master our understanding of this experience of being human.
That's great. I like your phrase there, Kevin, about the working with the technology of the body. You remind me, I heard something not so long ago, just recently, about the emotions being data. And I guess that's something that you perhaps embody in some shape or form in work that you do. So just a reminder for those of you that have just joined us on LinkedIn Live, I'm joined today by Clare, Dale and Kevin Chapman, and we're talking about an up and coming webinar series. Kevin and Clare are from the Physical Intelligence Institute, and there's an up and coming webinar series with the Association for Coaching in February. I'll share dates and times with you at the end of our chat today. And we're just lifting the lid a little bit on the webinar series, and we're talking about this subject, and we're having a little look at the 4 different areas. But maybe we could talk a little bit about this this toolkit, this tool set that you have, this PI tool set, the Physical Intelligence Toolkit. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and what you'll be teaching folks more about in the webinar series around that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think before I go into that, one of the things that I think is being valued about our toolkit and our work, for those executive coaches who work in highly professional environments, for whom using movement or even doing some breath work might feel a step, and for some might feel a step too far. Like, how do we do that without it being woo-woo? Not woo-woo, it's wow, because every executive coach that we've worked with and has come to the Institute will now tell you stories of how, when they start working with physical intelligence, because it's science-based and the tools are defined, that they are now, their clients, executive coaching clients, will be asking for those physical intelligence aspects to be part of it, and they will end up using physical intelligence in each and every session. And that's because we've defined the tools and because we've got the scientific underpinning, because the somatic world is very rich, very knowledgeable, very broad, and much of it in the UK coming from the Aikido basis. It's brilliant work, but it's less defined than what we've done. So we're really keen on making this accessible and usable and clear. Okay. So having said that, now we want to look under the lid of the toolkit, and we also want to, through this webinar series, not only take the lid off, but just shine some light in. We won't be able to look at all of them and take them out and play with them all, but we'll be able to get a sense of what's in there. And then if people want to go deeper, they can come and do become certified in coaching with physical intelligence in a longer 3-month program. So what are we going to do, and how are we going to, shed light on this toolkit? What is the toolkit? So first of all, it's good to look at these 4 elements: strength, flexibility, resilience, and endurance. And the fundamental nature of strength is our grounding, the way we hold ourselves in our body in relation to the world. Are we pushing against the world? Are we collapsing in relation to the world and things that happen around us, people? And how are we centering ourselves? What is centering? We use that term a lot, but we're going to look at what it is from a physiological perspective. And and then look at how that links to our confidence and our ability to take risks. So there's going to be some fundamental stuff about all of that, the basic confidence grounding, how we hold ourselves, and how we take risks in the world. Now, a core part of that will be breath, and I'm sure many of you listening here now will either already be working with breath, or will have an app on your phone that means you could work with breath if you wanted to, or have some tech. And breath is a huge topic and really vital. And it is the first way that we start to change our physiology and change our emotional state and change our approach to situations. It's fundamental. And we need to know a few different breathing techniques for different situations, and that's what will help codify. Then when we go to flexibility, we're looking at research that talks about how certain uses of the body put us into a state where we can think more divergently, for example. So creativity can be provoked and encouraged by the way we use our body. And that's one thing that comes into the flexibility, one thing that comes into the flexibility element. And we're in the flexibility section, we talk a lot about tension, how we hold tension. You talked about the data of emotion, and the data of emotion often goes along with the data of tension in the body, and looking at the different sensations in the body when it comes to our emotional state. So we'll deep dive into that and get more of a read from the physiology and know how to read the body, the language of the body on the inside. What's it saying? And are we listening? So that whole awareness piece. We'll find out how movement can liberate all kinds of different aspects of what we want, how we want to be as human beings. Resilience, then the third element, important topic. What are the things that we can do with our bodies to quickly bounce back from things that we didn't choose, that we didn't want, that we don't like? And how can we work with the more draining emotions and occurrences, emotions such as frustration, disappointment, anger? How does that affect how we can, if we're holding those things as leaders? The people we coach are often in, working on their resilience as they lead in complex situations. How do you then lead and lead others through those tough times as well? So we want to try and create a bouncy physiological system and know how to do that, and be able to process emotions quickly. I mean, this is in a nutshell, and this is just shining a quick torch in the toolbox. And then finally, endurance, energy, sleep, stamina, playing the long game, being able to stop this kind of boom and bust of the way we use our energy, but enjoy life when things are hard work, and make sure we're doing all of the things physiologically that keep our endurance and our longevity. Even how long we live will affect, certain things we do with our bodies and using our physical intelligence will affect how long we live. And this is important information for our clients, and we'll look in that endurance element at how we create we help our clients create those results, the drive, the accountability. All of those things come into this the way we structure our work and our lives to create that stamina and motivation for the future. How's that making sense?
That's making a lot of sense, and that sounds very interesting and exciting indeed. So we've talked a little bit about the what and the why. Perhaps, Kevin, we could talk about who's this for, and those folks that this is for, what will they gain from participating in your webinar series in February?
Oh, yeah. So we have served the work up so it can be consumed by people who would call themselves coaches. So obviously your population are coaches. So whether people are new to coaching and want a differentiating toolkit, they want to work with the body, maybe they've come from a performance background. There are more people coming into the coaching industry with backgrounds in sports, in the arts, coming from medical backgrounds, who all mental health practitioners, people who are already working with the body and want to integrate that into their work. And for seasoned coaches, they're looking to add the next thing into the depth of their knowledge, the breadth of their knowledge, and the power of their work. So we're seeing both seasoned coaches and new coaches come into that and assimilate the work in different ways, and bring that work into their work and into themselves. So what they'll get from that is really two things. They'll get effectively a roadmap of how the human being works from a physiological level, the chemistry, the biology. They'll get a scientific toolkit, research-based toolkit. And what coaches really want, they love the how-tos. We have lots and lots of how-tos. How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I tackle these topics? So they'll be able to pull out, even through the series, some practical how-tos that they can go and use immediately in their work, in their lives, including with their friends and family and unsuspecting people that they bump into.
Can I add to that, Rob?
Please, yeah.
Can I just jump in and say that I meet so many coaches, and at the beginning of our certification course, who say, look, there's things that I really want to try because I know that they've worked for me, a breath technique here, something about posture, something to do with movement that changes the state of a human being, but I don't understand really how they work, so I can't with all confidence give that. So that's one thing. I don't know how this works, and that's what we will show you. We'll explain, you know, these things where the knowledge of how something works gives us huge confidence to start to work with it. And then the second thing, if this is you and we're talking to you, you know, you might have ideas for things that are more using the body that you'd like to try, but you might feel, okay, well, if I do that, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going to hold back from doing it because I don't know if I'll be able to work with the outcome of that. And you need practice in a safe space. We all do when we're trying new things. So that is the second compelling reason to come and start to play with these things and get that knowledge and get that practice as well. And you know, if you join the webinar series, we'll create a special group for you and you in our institute. In addition to all the resourcing that the association will give you, you can come in and start to branch out and do other free events that we'll be running there for you. So, you know, what you experience on the webinar program, you'll be able to join the community and pick up, you know, go further, go as far as you like with this.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So for those of you that are interested, you will find the link to the webinar series in the comments below. You're welcome to ask questions, even if you're watching the recording of this, and we'll try and pick those up for you and respond to those questions. The obvious thing I perhaps should state is that it's running on Mondays in February on the 13th, the 20th and the 27th at 1 p.m. UK time. So that's the 13th, I should say, 20th and the 27th of February at 1 p.m. UK time, and you'll be able to join us at the Association for Coaching. You can find out details on associationforcoaching.com or just click on the link in the comments below. And as I mentioned earlier, you're welcome to leave any questions about the up and coming webinar series. It just leaves me to say thank you to both of you, Claire and Kevin. Have you got any final thoughts that you'd just like to share with those joining us today before we wrap up?
That's a lovely offer, isn't it? Well, my final thought is in 2 to 3 years' time, embodiment will be a core competence for coaches. So this is a time for coaches to get ahead of the game and also to work with other coaches who are already working with the body. So this is why I have the phrase, get ahead with the body.
I like that. Great. Claire?
I just want you to really take away the fact that emotions are neuropeptides. They're chemicals. They are playing through the body, and we can name them, we can work with them. And this is a key that is so vastly underused right now for how we coach, that we're going to look back in a few years' time and say, why weren't we doing that? This is crazy. And the research will back that up.
That's fantastic. So thank you for joining me today on our LinkedIn Live. I'm very much looking forward to the webinar series, and I've managed to refrain from asking too many questions and giving away too many of your secrets today. So we'll have to chat some more during the webinar series in February. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
Thanks.
Thanks to everyone.